I'm going to show you how to streamline your entire onboarding process. So in this video, we'll go over how to identify what needs to happen and even walk you through some things that I've done myself and for clients with the systems I built out in make.com and walk you through how you can actually build them out for yourself. So from filling out a CRM to automatically generating invoices, sending welcome emails or forms to new clients, to creating a new Slack channel and adding them to it, this video has you covered. So this system, it ensures a smooth experience for both you and your clients, giving you more time to focus on scaling your business while the automations handle the repetitive tasks. So whether you're just starting out or if you're rapidly growing, having systems like this in place will ensure that your onboarding process is seamless and scalable. So in the past, I've built out a similar system to this, but I wanted to actually take that and improve on it a bit. So real quick before we get started, I just wanted to mention that I've been able to help companies save tens of hours every single week, compounding into hundreds of hours and well over thousands of dollars saved every year through implementing systems like what I'm about to show you, even though this agent is just a fraction of some of the things that we've built. So if you're a business owner and you want to leverage our AI systems to scale your business and completely eliminate your repetitive tasks, like I've done with companies before, then book a free call with me. Link is in the description, and I'll show you how to drive revenue, save time in your business, and ultimately scale for growth so that you can finally step away from the daily operations. Also, be sure to join my school community because I'll be providing so much other valuable resources that'll help you grow and scale your business, which I don't provide on my YouTube. So to start off this video, I wanted to, like always, go over this process map that I put together, which just helps visualize how this process should be looking and how we actually built it out for our clients and for ourselves when it comes to automating their onboarding processes. So to get started, we have up at the top just filling out a CRM, and it all starts with this. So I'll show you what we do within our agency. So I just created an example of a CRM. So as you can see, we're just using Airtable, and I just put in some fake credentials. So I just use myself for this example. So we're including things like name, email, project price, description. So let me back up real quick and let me start off first with this. So every time we close a new client, or if we're even about to close a new client, we have to make sure that it's guaranteed, of course. But anyways, let's say we're on a call and we have just closed that client and we're going to be moving on to additional steps. So one of the coolest things that you can do is once you fill out this automation, it's then, at least for our agency, it's going to trigger a bunch of different actions. So when we submit this form for a new client, so we're filling out the name, email, project price, description, and obviously you can include other credentials, other details. But for us, this is just some things that we need. We don't really need much else. But the coolest thing is whenever we submit this, a bunch of actions are going to be triggered. So that's one, going to be sending an email. Two, it's going to automatically generate the invoice and send it to the clients. And three, it's going to add the clients to our Slack channel. And it's amazing because, once we submit this after the call or whenever we submit it, one of the best things about this is that it's doing everything instantly, and clients have always been super impressed with how quickly we've been able to get, the ball rolling on these projects. So we've been able to onboard people within 2 days. So just having a seamless process, something that, you don't have to worry about. And also it's going to perform better than any single employee that you have right now. And I can almost guarantee you that because one, we're sending personalized emails. So I'll show you what those will look like in just a few. So what we're actually going to be doing, I just want to create a fake submission. So I'm just going to be using myself for this once again. I'll just call this test delete. So I know for future reference, delete that. And I'm going to use one of my emails. And for the stage, I haven't even inputted any, defaults here, so we're not going to worry about that. For project price, we'll just do something like $2. And description, we'll call it AI automation. And we'll go ahead and go to submit. And now we're just going to go to view data. And next up, you'll then see that this submission is added to our Airtable. So I'm actually going to remove this previous one. So some things in here. So we have the client ID. So we're just I just used a formula to automatically generate client IDs. So every time we create a new field, it's going to generate a new client ID. So this is something that I actually use within my real onboarding system. But anyways, we're just including other things like date, description, and obviously there's the stage. So you're going to want to change this to what your company is going to be needing and some of the important information. So obviously, if you're in a different industry than then you're going to have to include different credentials and everything like that. And your onboarding systems are just going to look a little bit different, and that's totally okay. So next up, we have to identify what does your company do immediately? What do they need the client to do? So we're just identifying what needs to happen all around. So do emails need to go out? Do you have to create a Slack channel? So to help you get started and brainstorm some of these things, I want to show you exactly what we're doing in our agency. So the first thing that we're doing, and this helps us save so much time, and also as going back to the point I brought up earlier, just being able to do this quickly and efficiently, getting everything out to the client just really ensures them that they made the right decision to work with us. So something that we do within Reprise is just automatically generating Stripe invoices, and obviously it doesn't just stop there. So for some reason I have automatically generated Stripe invoice twice, so we're not going to worry about that. So once this is submitted, one of the things that it's going to do next is it's going to trigger this automation to run. So right now I have it off just because I'm testing some things with this CRM, but essentially we have an Airtable watch record. So every time a new record is added, it's going to trigger this automation, and obviously the scheduling will be on in the event that we want this to run automatically. So we're watching for the new record, and it's just going to analyze every single detail about that. So it's going to be looking at the project price, the description, client ID, date, and as I mentioned, it's just going to automatically create a Stripe invoice. And I'll show you how to actually build this out step by step. But first, I just wanted to go over what it's exactly doing. So it's creating a customer within Stripe. It's then going to create an invoice item and create an invoice, and from there finalize a draft invoice. Sorry, it's a super redundant process, but it's something that has to be done to actually get out this invoice and just finally make an API call. So that's going to be sending an email with the invoice to the recipient or the necessary party that has to pay it. So from there, once they pay it, it's then going to be running this other backend automation. So basically it's watching the events. So it's seeing if the client has paid. If they have, then it's going to run this entire automation. And this can look a lot different, and it should look a lot different for what your company needs to do exactly. So, obviously we're going to be wanting to send welcome emails. So that's going to look a little something like this. We're pumped to start working with you, including some links to book a call. And we have some other modules to create a Slack channel. But, if you have to do other things like add them to your project management software. So, you could go ahead and if you wanted to go to Asana, and if you wanted to create a task to a specific assignee, so maybe you have a consultant that's going to be assigned to that client, then you could assign them right there and create that task. So there's so many different ways that you could go about this. But anyways, let's go ahead and move down this process map. So as I said, we're watching for the paid invoice. So if the invoice is paid, it's going to execute the specific actions that I was just showing you. But ultimately, you're just going to want to identify what needs to happen within your business. So for us, we're sending welcome emails. We're adding them to a Slack channel, but you could also do other things like request credentials for them within their Slack channel or over email. And as I just mentioned, you could add them or add tasks to your project management channels. So assigning people to perform tasks for the client and automatically send reminders to anybody who's going to be on the tail end of that task. So on the other spectrum, so if we have the invoice and it's not paid after about 2 or 3 days, it's going to just send automated reminders. So just making sure that the client is aware of the invoice. And, obviously we don't start working until everything is paid and taken care of on that front. So now I'm going to show you how we can actually build out the automations. So these two systems to automatically generate the invoices and watch for invoices paid and updating your CRM and Gmail, everything like that. So first thing we're going to be doing, going into scenarios, and we're just going to create a new workflow. So to do that, we'll wait for this to load in and we'll just choose create a new scenario. So obviously the first thing we're going to want to do, as I said earlier with the CRM, is we're just going to want to find an Airtable record. So I mean, there's also going to be, if you use a different CRM, that's going to be totally fine. So if you use Google Sheets or maybe use HubSpot, yeah, I mean, there's so many. There's literally thousands of apps. So I guarantee your CRM is on here. So use Airtable, and we're just going to do watch records. So we'll pull that up, and essentially what this is doing is just going to be watching for anytime a new record is added to this specific CRM. So we'll just do a watch records, and we'll choose our base as Retrieval CRM, and we'll just find the tab that's under, which is going to be Onboard. So we're not really going to be changing much else in this. We'll just make sure to have a trigger field. So I'm just going to use date for this, and the label field, we'll do name, and we'll do the limit as 10. And honestly, we could just leave everything else as default. So we'll choose where to start, and we'll do from now on. And next up, what we're going to be doing here is just adding Stripe. So, you might use other things like QuickBooks or, whatever that may look like, but Stripe is one of the most common for agencies. So we're going to be working with that. So for here, we're just going to be using a create a customer. So if I just search up create a customer. So once this loads in, I'll show you how we can fill this out. So the description. So as you can see, we should have description right here. So we're just going to be literally just matching these, matching and pasting them into these mappings right here. So for email, we already have the email in our Airtable. So, we already have all these stages in all these categories in here. So it's really just lining them up. And for the name, we'll find the name right here, and phone number. We didn't include anything like that. So, we could just leave this as is, and we'll click OK. So next up, what we're going to be doing is creating an invoice item. So we'll go to Stripe, create a invoice item, load this in, and we'll choose the customer ID. So, we could literally just go to the top and copy that customer ID right there. So we'll do that, and we'll input by a total amount. And now we'll just find our pricing from earlier and make.com price. So that's just going to be the price of the project. So that's going to charge an invoice of this exact price. So as you can see, this is $2. So the invoice is going to be $2 within Stripe. Yeah, there's not much else to explain there. Pretty self-explanatory. And the description, we'll find the description from Stripe, create a customer. So a lot of times you can just search the description up at the top, which is super useful. And we could just leave everything else as blank. So now we'll click OK. And I want to move on to the next one, which is going to be creating an invoice. So unfortunately, first you have to create, both these individual modules, to create an invoice item and the create an invoice, but it's really not too big of a deal. So we'll do create an invoice, load that in, and customer ID. So we'll go to the previous node and find that invoice item ID, or I'm sorry, say customer. I believe it should be the previous module. So let's go ahead and do that. So that's number 2 right there. So we're just going to grab the customer ID right there. Okay, looks good. We'll leave auto advance as no, and the collection method we'll do send an invoice. And so the due date, so you could do this however you would want, of course, but how we do it is we want to create the due date for 2 days after we send the invoice. So I'm just going to copy and paste something that I already have. So basically the date's going to have to change right here. I'll show you how to get that. So if we go to search up date, and we just pull in that right there. Want to make sure this is in the right slot. Okay, so essentially we're just adding the days, and so we're finding the current date that this invoice is being generated and just adding 2 days to come up with a due date. So for the description, we'll just match up another description. Create that from the Airtable. And for the pending invoice items, we'll just make sure to include. That's a very important step right there. It took me a while to figure out why nothing was working properly, and it's because I didn't have this set to include. So it's looking good on that front. And now we just want to actually finalize this invoice and create it as a draft. So if we find finalize draft invoice, and we'll just get the invoice ID from the prior node. So that'll be number 3 right there. And so we'll close out this one, find 3. So the invoice item ID. Let me make sure that's right. So it'll actually be this previous one. So it's not 3, that was my previous module, it was 4. So we'll put that in right there. The item ID, or invoice ID, I should say. And next, now we're just going to be making an API call to actually send off the email. So hopefully you're following through. I know this is kind of long-winded and you're not really seeing the results just yet, but I'll show you, I promise, in just a second. So for the URL, we're just going to be copying and pasting the API endpoint. So what that will look like is this. So you can literally just copy and paste this. I'll also throw in the description for you to reference. But anyways, we'll just want to grab the invoice ID. So put that in right there. And make sure that is the previous node of the invoice ID that you're grabbing. So I believe it was 5. Yeah, so 4, 5, 6. Okay. So this is just going to allow us to send an invoice to the necessary party. And okay, so everything else looks good. We can leave this as content-type, and we'll leave everything else here as the default. So this should send off an email. So if I were to create a brand new client, so instead of going through the form, I'm just going to add a new record here. I'm just going to try to make things as quick as possible. So we're just going to copy the same exact things. Okay. And we could also just delete this one. So now, hopefully everything is hooked up properly. And we're going to run this once. So it was able to watch for the record successfully. So it did recognize that new submission. And then it's just going to create a customer based off of what was submitted from that record, creating an invoice, finalizing the draft invoice. And this last part, it didn't succeed. So I think it's just because we didn't post, because we're going to be posting something. We're not getting any specific emails. We're going to be sending the emails. So let me try to run that again once more, and we'll see what happens. Okay, perfect. So as you see, I just logged into my email, and here's the invoice from Stripe right here. So here's the $2, and it's just listing out the description and everything like that. So this is automatically generated, and we could even come into Stripe, and I'll show you of what this can look like. So logging into Stripe, I just pulled up the brand new invoice that was just created. So here's the $2. It says Nick Peruski test elite, and we'll just want to make sure that this matches up with our record that we just created, and it does. So here's everything else, the $2. If we were to write out 2,000, it's going to match that right here and going to create that $2,000 invoice. So the biggest thing here is just being able to actually send this invoice straight to the customer without having, any friction at all. So one of the next things that we're going to be wanting to do is building out this second system, which is basically watching for the events. And, because this is going to take a lot of different forms, and because I'm not wanting to actually pay this invoice, we're not going to be running it or anything. So you won't be able to see it in action, but this is something super useful and a very similar automation, which I've used for my clients in the past. But anyways, what we're doing is we're using a Stripe watch event. So let me go ahead and refresh this. For some reason, it's not allowing me to zoom in. So let me do that real quick. So if I come into here and pull this up, all we did is just search up Stripe watch events, and we just found a webhook and connected that to Stripe right there. And next up, we'll just be doing Stripe retrieve a customer. So we're trying to find the customer ID. So to get that, once you use the watch event, so any event that was held, if they paid something, it's going to grab that customer, and you get that from right here. So if I just search up customer, you'll see under object, there it is. And let me close this up. And for down here, you can just select all. So we just want to include all this information. And now we'll just want to be searching for the records. So we have to find let me make sure this is connected to Onboard. So we're basically just trying to be finding the specific record and match that up with the customer that just paid. So, we'll be searching the make.com price, the client ID, project price, stage, email, and name. And just make sure that it is connected properly. Then next up, we're just going to be updating a record. So Once again, we'll change this to Onboard. For some reason, it's on a different category. So here you'll just be inserting the record ID, and you could leave everything else as blank. So from there, you'll be able to send an email. And what we do is we say to the client is, we are pumped to start working with you. Please choose a time from our calendar to schedule your kickoff call here. And we just insert any URL. Also, do not forget to watch our onboarding video here. And we insert another video which just goes over some steps which they can follow and goes over some of the roadmaps and everything. And then I just mentioned that we can't wait to get started. So sending something like this, a welcome email right after you just got off the call and confirmed that they're closed, is something that's honestly changed the game for us and really allowed us to have a longer lifetime value with our customers. So something I highly recommend there. And then from here, we're just creating a Slack channel and inviting the actual user to it and creating a message, which is going to be similar to the previous one. So it's just saying we're pumped to start working with you. So exactly what I was saying in the email. So obviously this is going to take a lot of different forms, as it should for your own company. But the two things should be staying the same, which is one, generating that invoice automatically and watching for that invoice being paid. And then, really from here on, it's going to have a bunch of different actions. So whether that's an email, adding them to Slack channel, or you have a project management tool, or maybe sending them a link to your Calendly, whatever, it's going to look so different. So it's not really worth, building out just one automation, even though I kind of did in this video. But anyways, I really hope you found some value in this. I can't emphasize enough how important onboarding and automating that entire system and that entire process can be for your company. So if you are looking for help implementing some of these solutions and some of these systems within your own company, then you could book a call. You can find the link down in the description below. But yeah, so I'll be sharing all this within my skill community. So this process map, these two automations, so you can find that in there. And yeah, with that being said, I hope you found some real value in this video, and I will see you in the next one.